Hello lovelies, my name is DK Oni and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Also, you're welcome to the sewing aspect of this beautiful skirt. So here I cut out the lining for the back piece, just the same thing with the fabric. And take note of the notch part on the zipper area. I did that also to the lining, like so. Then also for the front, I cut out lining for the front piece also, taking note of the notch part of the skirt. Do the same thing to the lining. So I'm picking up one fabric, like so. I'm picking up one lining. So you place your lining beneath the skirt, taking note of the notch part. Make sure the notch part of the lining aligns to the notch part of the fabric, that is the zipper area of your skirt, like so. So you place the lining beneath the fabric, like so. Then you take it to your sewing machine and stitch on it, like on the top of the skirt, like so. So you're going to go ahead and stitch round your fabric. Do the same thing to the other parts of the skirt. So I've gone around to stitch round the fabric for the front and for the back. So here's the two back piece of my skirt, like so, and here's the front part of my skirt. So I went ahead to stitch all around it, placing the lining beneath it. Take note of the notch part of the front skirt. Then you go ahead and fold your front block into two, like so, taking note of the notch parts. That is what is going to actually guide you to be able to know the top of the skirt and the hem of the skirt. So I'm going to go ahead and place my 2 inches band measurement to mark out my waist to hips. That is the high waist to hips. Then go by 2 inches above the waist to hips line for me to know where the length of my dart is going to stop at. So I'm going to mark out 3.5. Like we said, her nipple to nipple is 3 plus half of an inch. That's 3.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that also at the top of my skirt and connect the lines like so, straight down to 2 inches above the hip line. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute 1 inch that we added for the dart allowance. I'm going to divide it into two equal parts. That is half of an inch and half of an inch. So I'm going to place it on the two sides of the dart leg. So I went ahead to connect each dart point to 2 inches above the waist to hips line, like so, as you can see. So when you're to sew, you just fold in the middle of the dart leg, like so, and stitch following the line you connected to the dart leg, like so, as you can see, taking note of where the dart is going to end. That is 2 inches above the waist to hips line, like so. As you can see from there, as you can see, stitch down. Then you do the same also to the other side of the skirt. So for the back skirt also, like so. You remember the notch part we did in the cutting video. So I'm going to just go ahead and make the notch we made visible to guide me to know where my dart points will be. So place my 2 inches waistband, then mark out my waist to hips, then go by 2 inches away from the waist to hips line, like so. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the notch we made when we were cutting in the cutting video actually. So I'm going to go ahead and make the points visible. So just use your ruler and connect it straight down to 2 inches above the waist to hips line. Then go ahead and connect the two dart legs also to 2 inches above the waist to hips line. So you do the same thing to the second piece, like so. So when you're sewing, you fold the midpoint of it and so you stitch on the dart leg, like so. So you do the same thing to the second part of the skirt. So you sew from the dart length straight down to the top of the skirt, like so. Stitch on it, like so. Do the same thing to the other. Then I'm going to take my band, I iron gum on it, and pick the front of my skirt. That's the right side. And I'm going to place the right side of my band facing the wrong side of my front skirt block, like so. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch on it Take note that I opened up the waistband like so. So you're just going to go ahead and stitch on it like so. Then I'm going to go ahead and flip it over to the right side like so. Flip the other part of your band over to the right side, facing the right side of your skirt, and fold in the excess to cover the stitch you made like so. So I'm covering the stitch I made like so. Just we're going to just sew from one end to the other end. So I did that to the back skirt also. So as you can see, I went ahead to mark out my 1 inch on the zipper area of my back skirt and I stitched on it. Then I went ahead to impute her measurements, her waist, from her waist to hips, from her waist to the hem of the skirt like so. Then I placed her hips divided by 4 measurements. I placed her waist divided by 4 measurements, and I did the contouring at the hem of the skirt like so. So I went ahead to stitch both the front onto the back of my skirt after shaping like so, as you can see. So for the hem measurement, you can watch the cutting video to know how I derived 17 inches there. So I went ahead to cut long stripe of fabric for the gathered aspect of the skirt. So I cut long fabric with a width of 5 inches. That is, remember we deducted 4 inches in the cutting video, so I added 1 inch for the sewing allowance, which has a total of 5 inches. So I cut enough pieces for the gathered part of the skirt. So I went ahead to just make a one stitch on the top of the fabric, and I went ahead to hem the down of the fabric like so. So we're just going to go ahead and pull one end of the thread, pull from one end like so to create the gather. So you're going to continue pulling, and the more you pull, the more you create the gather's fullness, and you just try and distribute it evenly till you get the measurement of the circumference of the hem of your skirt like so. So here the circumference of the hem of my skirt is 34 inches. So I created the gathers to actually equals the 34 inches at the hem of the skirt like so. So you're just going to repeat this till you get what you want. So for the total fabric to use, you can go ahead and multiply 34, that is total hem of the skirt, by 3 or 2 depending on how full you want it. So I went ahead and closed the two ends of my gather fabric. So that's the zipper area of the skirt. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up the front parts of the skirt, taking note of that zipper area. So you open it up into two like so, making it to relax. Open it up, then you place the two ends you stitched together on the gathered aspect of the skirt. So you place the fabric onto the right side of your back skirt block like so, making sure the gathered aspect is even. So open up the end like this, like so, and place it onto the front. That is placing the front part of the gathered fabric onto the back skirt. That is onto the front of the back skirt. I know you understand what I'm trying to say. So you go ahead and stitch on it like so. You stitch it all around your skirt like so. So as you can see, we have by the side seam. So you just flip the side seam allowance upwards like so, then you continue sewing to avoid bulkiness as at the side seam of the skirt like so. So you continue sewing, you do the same thing also to the other side seam of your skirt like so. Please don't mind the way I'm rushing the video. I just want a short and detailed video. So here's the finished look. I interlocked the gathered part, the side seam. I attached my zip to the zipper allowance, and here's how the front, that's the wrong side of the front skirt, looks like. Isn't it beautiful? And here's the right side of our skirt. It's beautiful. So here's the finished look, and as you can see, here's the back of our skirt. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.